everyone, Vera here from Rudy Visuals. In today's video we have another interesting lens to review. This is the newly released Viltrox AF 50mm f1.8 FE lens for Sony E-mount. It's compatible with both full frame and APS-C Sony mirrorless cameras and continues the trend of affordable lenses from Viltrox. This lens was sent to us by Viltrox, so a big thank you for them for making this video possible, but this is not a paid or sponsored review, and as always, all of our thoughts and opinions are fully independent. Now, we are big fans of cheap Nifty 50 lenses. We've done reviews of the legendary Canon Nifty 50, the Sony 50mm f1.8, and have overall very positive opinions on them thanks to their affordability, their ease of use, versatility, and of course the ability to create really nice depth of field. They may not be the sharpest or the best performing or fastest focusing, but typically you associate this kind of lenses to be cheap and cheerful. However, the Viltrox 50mm lens we have here is actually a little bit more expensive, priced at $380. Though, as you'll see later in this review, there are a few reasons why that is, and why I would generally recommend getting this over the cheaper Sony FE 50mm lens. Usually Nifty 50 lenses are what I like to call plastic fantastic. They're cheaply made and feel kind of like toys. Here we have the Canon Nifty 50, the Sony, and putting the Viltrox next to it, even just by looking at it, you could see it's a much better built quality lens. It's made of metal, which is already an improvement, and feels a little bit heavier too, weighing in at 380 grams. You also get a metal mount with the USB-C port, found in a lot of Viltrox lenses, who, by the way, have a pretty good reputation for providing regular updates. The focus and aperture rings are also metal and turn smoothly, although the aperture ring doesn't click as you go through the aperture range, except when you put it into auto. Unfortunately, there is no wear to sealing whatsoever, and the provided lens hood does feel a bit flimsy and can be a bit hard to put on and take off the lens. But overall, the build quality feels great. It feels really robust and durable. I feel way more confident about taking this on shoots compared to the Sony, which really does feel a lot worse in comparison, like it is a toy. I guess the only downside I can see is that usually Nifty 50 lenses are very small and compact. The Viltrox isn't exactly huge, but it's definitely a lot bigger than usual, as you can see here, and you do notice the added weight. Okay, so now we know that the build quality is a step up, but is that enough to justify the higher price tag? Well, thankfully, on top of that, the image quality is also an area that surprised me a lot for a Nifty 50 lens. We took this lens out the other week with our model Canella to see what we could do, and here is a selection of photos and video samples that we came away with. So what did you think of the images and video samples? Let us know in the comment section below. Now, I, for one, was actually very surprised at how sharp the images were. As you can see from these photos, when we really zoom in, you'll see how nice and tack sharp those eyes are, and you can see a lot of details around the skin. It is capable of producing really sharp images and is definitely a big improvement over the Sony FE 50mm lens. Here's a quick comparison of a shot using the 50mm lens from Sony compared to the Viltrox one. And as you can see, there's quite a big noticeable difference in sharpness. I was expecting some softness that I would usually associate with Nifty 50 lenses, but shot after shot, these came up looking really sharp. In terms of issues, there were a few examples of chromatic aberrations here and there. You can see some purple fringing and some greens here and here. But considering this is wide open at f1.8, I am used to the chromatic aberrations being really noticeable on nifty 50 lenses, but on the Viltrox, it really is nowhere near as what I would expect to see. If we take a look at these test sample images wide open at f1.8, the middle of the image is nice and sharp, and where you would expect the corners to be soft, yes, they are a little bit soft, but definitely nowhere near as soft as I was expecting. Perhaps just a little lacking contrast. Stepping down to f2.8, the corner sharpness and contrast has a slight improvement, and the center is still really nice and sharp. Then again, down to f4, the middle is pretty much perfect and the corner sharpness noticeably improves as well. So for a 50mm f1.8 lens, you are also paying for better image quality. Of course, you know by now, one of the reasons people buy these lenses is for that bokeh and the ability to get good subject and background separation. Typically, with nifty 50 lenses, you do expect the out of focus areas to look decent, but not amazingly smooth. But again, the Viltrox bucks that trend, and you can see from these shots, produces really pleasing and smooth looking backgrounds. I did notice that the bokeh balls are not quite circular, more lemon shapes, particularly towards the edges, where I know some bokeh geeks don't like to see that. But for me, this isn't really like a big deal. I really enjoyed using this lens for video too. The background blur looked pretty good actually to my eye. Moving on to autofocus, typically a weakness for nifty 50 lenses. Unfortunately, this is where I did encounter some issues. Viltrox did everything so well up to this point, but this is where the lens did fall a little bit short somewhat. I did find that the Viltrox did hunt quite a lot during video, even though the face detect was working. As you can see here, it's still misfocused on occasion. It's not that terrible, but you can definitely notice it when you're looking up close to the model's face. Even when our model isn't moving at all that fast, it did randomly misfocus at times. If you plan to vlog or shoot A-roll like this in AF, I did notice it hunts quite a lot too, particularly if you're moving your arms around a lot, etc. Probably a lot better just putting it on manual focus. I am hoping that this can be fixed with a firmware update, but it was really disappointing to see, especially as when it did focus, the images and videos are nice and sharp. As with spot focus, whether in stills or video, it just isn't a particularly fast focusing lens, so you may have trouble with fast moving subjects. It's not terrible, but just not anything to write home about. I would personally recommend this lens at this time more for stills rather than video, especially if you're doing any kind of client work. It's just not really worth the risk. To be honest, that is an issue that I found with most 50mm lenses. I do prefer using them for stills rather than video, so that's not an issue that is exclusive to the Viltrox lens. A couple of other issues I had with this lens. Firstly, there is no IS, so shooting handheld, especially for video, can be a problem without a gimbal or a tripod, but using the in-body IS on the A7R3, I did still manage to get some usable and nice looking footage, as long as you're not moving too fast and your subject is pretty still as well. But for more dynamic and more movement shots, that lack of IS is quite noticeable, so you definitely are better off using this lens with a gimbal, for example, if you plan to shoot a video with it. Also, the minimum focusing distance of 55 centimeters makes it difficult to shoot smaller subjects and getting up close, which is definitely a problem for a camera tech YouTuber like myself. The Sony FE 50mm lens trumps it with a minimal focusing distance of 45 centimeters. So to summarize, what we have here is a 50mm package that's better than the base Sony FE 50mm f1.8, but without being too massive and expensive. It is a significant improvement over the cheaper typical 50mm f1.8 lenses, at least in terms of the image quality, and not to mention build quality too. And while there are some premium 50mm lenses for the E-mount system, they also come with premium price tags. So with the Viltrox, whilst it has its weaknesses, it's nice to have an in-between choice for those of you who want something a little bit sharper but are not quite ready to spend the big bucks on top of the line lenses. So for me, as a souped up, upgraded nifty 50 lens, the Viltrox AF 50mm f1.8 FE is a great addition to the Viltrox lineup for the Sony E-mount and well worth taking a look at. And if you are interested in purchasing this lens or any other Viltrox lens, you can get a 10% discount using our affiliate link in the description below. Anyway guys, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. And also don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it and subscribe to our channel so that you never miss any of our future reviews. And also don't forget to check out our social medias, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!